Usamos estampillas totalmente.
You are now tuned in to your number one radio station. Violent people. Radio.
Yeah, Josh Bishop rules.
I'm trying to think. Like I'm from Cleveland, as you guys know, and like it was funny for me listening to last week. I listened to last week's show to try and prep for this, just to like get into the rhythm. And AIW came up with like Sam having those early shows,
Mm-hmm.
and I was at a lot of those early shows, and they were terrible. The one that stands out in my mind was like it was supposed to be I can't even remember, but there was like a bad snowstorm. It was a Sunday evening show, I'm pretty sure. Like down close to the flats, and like it was such a bad snowstorm that they thought that we were going to have to stay overnight at work. Like we wouldn't be able to leave. And they were just going to like bring in food for us and stuff. But we ended up being able to get out. And then we went to this show, and there was like the only road people that made it were Tyler Black and Shane Hollister. Everybody else canceled. So it was them and like local Cleveland guys. And like the main event was like a death match between Thorne and somebody else, like the Thrill Billy or something. And like the fans started getting into it with them, and it was like a very low level riot situation. But like
was that down in Mulberry's when they did shows there?
Yeah, it was in Mulberry's.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah,
and it was like it. First of all, there was like 10 fans, and like second of all, like it like we were all snowed in, like no one could go anywhere, so it's like none of it mattered, it just sort of like fizzled. It was such a bizarre, weird feeling.
Did you ever go to any Cleveland All Pro shows?
I went to a few, and I knew like very briefly, like I don't think we'd recognize each other now or anything like that, but like for a while I ended up at shows and stuff with JT Lightning's daughter, so like we would say hi because I like liked wrestling or whatever. So like she was an acquaintance, but like I went to a few of their shows, and then like they did a big show at like what I think then was called the Odeon. I don't know what it is now, but it was outside. Trying to think who they brought in. The ring was tiny, and there were like a lot of like weird old timers there. Like Snuka wrestled. Tracy Smothers was on the card. I think Nigel wrestled M-Dog.
Oh, that's a real Cleveland All Pro match right there.
Yeah. And there were a few other like weird things. Oh, I think Lord Zoltan was on the show, which was tight. The Hostile Amish like played an intermission concert. Who, if you're from Cleveland and into punk music, you probably saw them like 500 times. What else? I don't remember the main event, but I remember Jason Bain like interfered in it. That's all I recall from that. That's probably the biggest show that I went to for them.
That's incredible. I have a question. I guess I've never thought to ask you to. So this was very early, and you two in particular would be good to answer this. Very early into my wrestling fandom, I was a frequent reader of WrestleZone to get SmackDown results. And I remember this is probably, very early in my fandom, 2009, maybe 2010. And I remember Justin LeBar, I believe, did a match in Pro Wrestling Ohio. Did y'all ever and like I remember like had like Gargano and I think Kevin Nash maybe wrestled in this match as well. And like they brought in like names, like in hindsight I'm like, oh okay, those are like actual guys. But were they around long enough for y'all to like, did y'all ever go to those shows or what?
I don't. I never went to any shows. I don't even know where they are. Ohio's a big state, so
yeah, I guess it's true.
If they were down like more towards Cincinnati or whatever, I never traveled that far for a show. Especially because like at that time, like right before AIW started like running their own shows, there was like ROH did like 4 Cleveland shows over at Gray's Armory, so like I never felt the need to like travel outside of Northeast Ohio in order to see good wrestling. I have one other hilarious AIW, like early AIW story. We went to another show at Mulberry's at the Flats, and the reason that we went, and it wasn't the main event. I think the main event was local guys, but like one of the semi-mains was like Eddie Kingston versus Michael Tarver in like a shoot style match.
Oh hell yeah!
Which like I would watch that now. But this was back when AIW was trying to do commentary like over the PA system. So
I'm
the
back,
audience,
and that was my least favorite era.
yeah, the audience could hear the commentary, but like they couldn't understand the commentary because the PA system was awful. You could just hear Chandler Biggins just sort of like yelling all the time, and like
Somehow it was easier to understand his yelling when he was just sitting front row at other indie shows.
Yes.
Than when he's over at PA.
Yeah. And like midway through the match, Eddie Kingston stops wrestling and was like, "You guys have to stop announcing. Like, please do not announce anymore."
The rules.
they like shut up for the next 10 minutes or whatever until it was over.
I remember during that I had a friend to say like was doing a review of the show, somebody, and they were like, well, it must be better for the live experience at least because it's awful on tape. And I'm like, no, it's awful live too. It's better for just the two guys talking.
I don't know if I've ever heard someone at a wrestling show where the commentary's over PA say it makes for a better viewing experience. Like I remember that being a big hurdle for people watching the original like Makabe Thatcher trilogy. Because all those matches, commentary was over the PA, and the sound mixing on those videos were fucking atrocious.
Yeah. The only time it's even remotely acceptable is like at local lucha shows where the ring announcer just sort of like vamps in Spanish throughout.
Oh yeah, that rocks. Yes.
Yeah, that kicks ass. But anytime it's in English, it's terrible.
As long as I don't understand the language, it adds to it. I'm like, I don't know, I agree, but like when I can almost understand what someone's saying, where I'm like, what? And it's usually people trying to make bad jokes to get themselves over.
Yeah, which I'm sure is exactly what it is in Spanish too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but I don't know, so I assume it's great.
Yep. Yeah.
I had to jump off. I brought up Cleveland All Pro Wrestling because I think it was whatever episode we did on the second or third where I talked about that the first indie show I took my poor mom to. And I just think back now, I'm like, what a trooper.
I took my mom to a ROH doubleheader weekend one time, a Dayton, Chicago Yeah.
I went to the Dayton show. I told the story. I didn't get to go to Punk Joe, which wasn't supposed to be Punk Joe, but because I dragged her all the way to the Dayton show before that. And that show, she had a miserable time. And when I asked to go to the next one, she was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I'm paying. I'll pay for gas and tickets. She's like, you could pay me double.
That rocks.
So my mom was a trooper about the ROH doubleheader weekend. And then I took my dad one time who like my mom at least was always like, you know, a supportive mother. My dad like, you know, could care less about wrestling and like could not even be bothered to like pretend to be interested. Right. And so one time I was in where my dad lives. I mean, it's my dad lives in Long Island now and did then. And I flew to visit them for Thanksgiving, my dad and my stepmom. And I was like, hey, like, I want to go to this Ring of Honor show because they did Black Friday Fallout that year, like, you know, 25 minutes away from my dad or whatever. And I was like, Dad, do you want to come? And he's like, yeah, sure, of course, I'll come. Like, I think he was sort of morbidly curious. And my dad, like, as we were pulling into the parking lot, was like, so, like, who are the good guys? You know, like, who should I be, like, looking out for, right? And so I told my dad about, like, Samoa Joe, you know, and I was like, yeah, I mean, Joe's probably, like, the biggest name guy on the show, because, like, Danielson wasn't working or anything, I don't think. And the main event was awful. It was, well, not awful, but it was, Kings of Wrestling versus Daniels and Seidel, right? And so, like, none of those guys.
I pulled it up. It was awful. It was Danielson and Seidel versus Davey Richards and Delirious.
Oh, Davey and Delirious. That's even worse.
For 27 minutes.
That's so much worse.
Yeah, because the Kings of Wrestling lost the belt on the next show, on the Saturday show. But the Friday show was like the warm-up that was, that interminable, awful main event.
27 minutes is wild.
Yeah. But like that, I mean, 27 minutes, that was expected back then.
It really was, yeah.
But so at any rate, so I tell my dad about Joe as like the one guy he should like be, you know, pay attention to or whatever. And like Joe's music hit and I'm like, oh, this is Joe. He, you know, and my dad like looks up and Joe comes out and my dad just starts laughing. He's like, this guy, like he like could not get over that like the person that I thought was like the best wrestler on the card looked like Samoa Joe. My dad, I guess, is a body guy. Who knew? You know.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I'm learning all about the history of Ohio wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh man, I had an uncle who one time volunteered to take me to a wrestling show, but like he really it was like the PA commentary. He just like riffed the whole night on how smelly everyone was and how everyone in the ring he could kick their ass and
yeah,
he hated it. And I remember I was like young, but I was old enough to be like, why did you bring me here?
That's
like
awesome.
I was like a little kid, but I was like, you obviously hate this.
When I got into wrestling, you know, I got into wrestling like later in life. I was like, had just turned 13 or no, had just turned 12. And my dad got super into it again. Like he had watched like a bunch of shit in the 80s. And like my dad was sitting down for 2 hours on Mondays and like watching Raw with me. And he got very into to CM Punk and like the Jeff Hardy stuff. It was very, very weird because I had never seen him like I mean, he was a big football guy and a big NASCAR guy, and he like passively watched baseball, but he got like into the wrestling. Like it was his idea to take us to Raw when they came to Birmingham for my first show. But yeah, he got like super into it for a little bit. It was we ordered like every pay-per-view from like the time I started watching until like summer of 2009. Yeah, it was crazy. He got super into it though. Chris,
you gonna lead stuff this week, Chris, or do you want someone else to?
Oh, that wasn't what I was asking.
No, it was his turn. And he's late, so I'm like, get this shit going, man.
Yeah, Chris, you want to host?
This guy's volunteering me to run the Twitter. I'll volunteer those.
No, I thought my bit was funny about you two getting into a power struggle. Yeah, I think y'all should both post.
I've already changed the passwords to everything. No, Sam's on vacation. It's my site now.
Sam's not even on vacation.
Where is he?
It's today's his wife's birthday.
His wife's birthday.
I have no idea why he's taking the week off. Love Sam, salted the earth guy, but
I mean the ex owner of violentpeople.co. So
yeah, but we're still using all his credit card stuff.
Not changing that.
Yeah, to pay for everything. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, yeah, Chris, are you hosting?
Sure.
Awesome.
I deserve it.
Don't worry, we don't want you. Tanner can.
Hey, to be completely fair, Sam was almost this late last week because he asked at 6:59 or 7:59 Eastern. He was like, "Are we still shooting for 8?" I mean, Chris hasn't entered the show. I don't know what's making the show and what's not.
Welcome to Violent People Radio, episode 4.
5.
Episode 4 that I've been on. Isn't that what matters?
Well, Chris, I don't know if you've heard, but we have to keep a pretty tight ship around here, as we are officially the #1 wrestling podcast in the country of Denmark.
We are. That's true.
Take that, Undertaker.
Yeah, take that, Undertaker.
He's number 2.
Yeah, he was number 2. He has since passed us. He is now 3 and we're 4.
Update. You shouldn't hit refresh.
If you didn't refresh for 24 hours, we were #1 in Denmark.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I am Chris, joined as ever by my good friend. You just heard him, Tanner.
Hello. I also, as an aside, I have a special guest with me. Everybody say hello to Zelda the kitten.
Hello, Zelda the kitten.
I mean, she's asleep, but
yeah,
she's here in spirit.
We also have Dan Rice.
Hey, everybody. I also have 2 kittens in my house, but they're strays, and I am refusing to let them in off the back porch.
Oh, my goodness.
And we are without Sam this week. We have a very special guest. We have guest hosting JR Goldberg. Welcome to the show, JR.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I have no cat, stray or otherwise.
That's a shame.
You still have time.
Yeah, you can get a cat before the end of the show. I have about 5 hours of show lined up.
Fair enough. I hope that's not true.
I told him it would be a tight 30. We're at minute 27 of that 30.
That'll be about the same time my Chinese
hour and a half. So Dan was like, "Oh, it's going to be like an hour and a half," and then I was like, "Oh, I'll listen to the last episode just to prep and find my rhythm and see what it's like." And I opened up that tight hour and a half, and it was like an hour and 53 minutes. And so I was like, "Okay, I know what I mean. I understand. We're on wrestling time." Okay.
Yeah, the only episode that's went under an hour and a half was the week I wasn't here.
I'm now learning what the word tight means right now.
Oh man, but yes, JR, thank you for coming on the show on extremely short notice as well. Despite us knowing Sam was missing this week for a month.
Yeah. Tanner, I think the last time you and I were on a podcast together, we were also on with the Frey movement.
Jeez.
Introducing our next guest.
JR, that's probably true because the last time we were on a podcast together was probably 2014 or 15.
Yeah, it's probably around there.
Yeah,
it's been a decade.
So,
10 years. We'll get
that's the rule. The 3 of us can't be in the same room, you know.
Yeah.
Fuck. I did not even put that together. I knew we had podcasted together. I knew we had done either a Wazim cast or a We Don't Know Wrestling, but I did not realize that he was on there. That's okay.
The true tight.
Where can I listen to that today? Pull that up.
Sam's hard drive somewhere. I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we said some normal stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure it was extremely normal. I'm sure he didn't burp into the mic like a fucking wild animal, thinking it was funny. I'm sure he didn't say anything offensive or anything. I'm sure it was good, clean fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, the Obama era. What can you say?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, I did want to start the show on a little bit of a somber note. I don't know if y'all have seen the news, but Joey Chestnut is banned from the Nathan's hot dog eating contest this year.
Didn't that happen before too?
Fuck if I know. But
no, I think it happened to the other guy, right?
Kobayashi.
Oh, yes.
Kobayashi. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, he took a brand deal with Impossible Meat, and I guess Nathan's banned him, or Impossible banned him from eating real meat hot dogs. I don't know, but it may be the greatest sports tragedy that has ever happened in this great nation.
I mean, he should just do what Kobayashi did and do his own thing at the same time.
Yeah, just be on top of a tower in New York.
Yeah, you're allowed to eat hot dogs wherever you want.
Yeah.
Well,
I think from that.
Well, I think the thing is he can't eat Nathan's hot dogs. He can't eat real hot dogs.
Yeah.
He's got to eat Impossible Meat hot dogs, which I have not had Impossible weenies. But most of the Impossible Meat I have tried, I find very salty. So I would think it would be difficult to eat 70-something hot dogs if they had the sodium content of the normal Impossible Meat lineup.
I don't want to sound like a wimp. It's gonna be tough for me to eat 70 hot dogs of any variety.
Well,
just gonna lay it on the line, guys.
How many? Okay, 10 minutes. How many hot dogs do you think you can eat? This is the question. This is how I frame it to my wife. If you got $100 per hot dog, how many hot dogs do you think you could eat without stopping? $100 per dog.
In how long a period? Or just endlessly?
I mean, just say endlessly, but you have to eat them back to back. You can't throw up. You can't take a lap.
Buns and all? Or just hot dog?
Buns and weenies.
All right. I think I could get to $1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's a good number.
I thought you were going to say 1,000 hot dogs.
No.
I was like, God damn.
I think I could get the world record.
And
back in the day, I used to go nuts at Dollar Dog Night, when I was going to Indians games. And I know that back then I would eat 7-8 hot dogs in a baseball game. But I can't eat that period now. But I still think money on the line. I might try for 10.
Can I use PEDs? Can I smoke a bowl beforehand?
Sure. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then I'm gonna say I can do 12.
Okay, so she thinks I'm crazy. My answer is 25.
That's a lot of hot dogs.
That's a lot of hot dogs.
I also don't really like hot dogs, but for
you're not eating 25 hot dogs.
You don't like hot dogs. You don't like hot dogs.
I'm never in the mood for hot dogs. For $100 a piece, there's not much of anything I wouldn't eat for $100 a piece.
With the bun.
Yeah.
That's a lot of carbs.
What? Buddy, I'm $2,500 richer.
The buns
you think I'm worried about carbs?
I'm not saying that you're worried about carbs. I'm just saying that those are gonna start real quick. Sitting.
Yeah, but you could do the method, they dip it in the water or the fruit punch. I could just make a bread slurry, quickly gulp down 25 weenies, and then just drink 25 buns.
I don't want to get too deep into finances, but Tanner is a homeowner going to Disney this year. And he's like, I need $100 a dog bad.
No, I need $2,500 for this Disney World trip. No, absolutely. They've
I know you're not on the poverty line. You're doing okay. And you're eating these hot dogs.
Yeah, dude, $2,500. I'm trying to buy a PC this year. I got 3 animals. Zelda's an expensive little girl.
You've owned her for like 20 minutes.
Since Friday, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Oh man, Chris, how was your vacation?
It was really nice. It was chill. I did not consume any wrestling. That was very nice too.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
That's pretty cool. Our first segment's usually what wrestling you've been watching.
Wow.
Yeah, I got there, and last year, like, we rented the same exact like Verbo or whatever that we did last year.
Mhm.
And they had cable last year, so I was able to watch like AEW. And they didn't, so I didn't watch it this year. It was fine. I just watched a bunch of movies.
It's tough out there for short-term rental owners and Tanner.
Yeah. To be fair, I've never owned cable in this house. I find cable obsolete, but I do pay for about 25 streaming services. So, yeah, I'm shocked to hear that Dynamite still happened without you watching, Chris. I'm happy to hear that Tony could get the boys motivated.
They have those apps that'll tell you every streaming service you subscribe to. That's my nightmare. No one ever tell me.
No, I don't even.
I do not want to know. Yeah, dude, I don't want to think about it.
Funimation went out of service over a fucking year ago, and I just canceled my sub. Funimation doesn't even exist.
They just merged with Crunchyroll, right? So you basically had a Crunchyroll sub that you were paying for?
No, because it did not float over. No, I was paying for Funimation, and there was nothing on Funimation. Because they did not just cancel people's subs. Yeah, so I did get that canceled, but again, I had not used I probably hadn't used Funimation since probably season 3 or season 2 of Demon Slayer. So if that's
my nephew asked if I could subscribe to Crunchyroll for him, and I said, yeah, no problem. And I went to log in, and I was like, apparently I had never unsubscribed 5 years ago.
Oh, that's awesome.
So here you go. I'm like, watch a lot of it because I need my money's worth.
I don't even know how much Crunchyroll Premium is. I don't use my account. But I remember it used to only be like $6. I assume that's probably not the case anymore.
Do any of you guys have a Cult Pix subscription?
Who?
Cult Pix? It's like a movie. It's like, like 70s weird movies and stuff. But
no, but that sounds cool.
I do not. I just have. Well, I share like Movie and Criterion. That's the closest I have to like that.
Got it. Yeah. I'm looking for there's like stuff on Cult Pix I want to watch, but I also don't want to spend money on it because I'm a cheapskate, and so I'm looking for a friend that has one so I can just mooch. So
you were asking us for a login?
Yeah, no, I was just straight up asking you guys for a login. 100%. I was just hitting you up. Well, when you told me you have like 30 streaming services, I didn't even know there were 30 streaming services. So I figure that must be one of them.
I mean, I don't know if it's 30, but right now
I would be the guy in here that would have that subscription, and
yeah, Chris would be the one, but I have like the normal ones. I mean, I have Max, I have Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, Peacock, Criterion, Shudder, Crunchyroll, Hulu. I had ESPN Plus, but I canceled it. A couple of others.
That's like one of the first DMs I sent Tanner was like, please use my Fight Pass.
Yeah, I was, God, how long ago was that?
I mean, Dan? A really long time ago, but yeah. I just know I never used it, and I was like paying for it. So like you tweeted about it, and I was like, hey, use this.
Yeah, I wanted to watch like full Pride shows. So Dan was like, here's my Fight Pass. And I watched like the first 30 Prides in chronological order. Yeah. Oh, I guess that's the show.
All right,
that's it. We're done.
All right. So Chris didn't watch any wrestling. Tanner, have you watched anything?
Dan, I'm happy to let you know.
You haven't. Great. Okay.
No. I watched one match. It's last week's show. I've been busy.
People radio.
I've been busy. I don't know if you heard. I got a new cat. So Zelda's taking up a lot of my time.
Didn't sleep 23 hours a day.
yeah, but that hour might as well be 2 or 3 at least. I did watch one match. No, it was not good. I don't know if I even really want to talk about it.
Well, you have to. It's the only one you watch.
But I did watch Cody Rhodes versus AJ Styles.
Oh, what a crazy choice.
From Backlash? Was that the name of that show? Yeah, I watched it. Well, I was curious. I forgot Bucky was in this Discord. I was curious about it because I saw that it got the Meltzer 5, and I was like, oh, I mean, surely it couldn't be bad. And I like Cody, and I really like AJ, but man, that match just did not do jack diddly shit for me. I did not like it at all. I'm a pretty notoriously easy star rater, and I went 2.5 on it, I think. 2 3/4.
I do not want to get into star rating discourse, but it's really funny to look at this show. The lowest match has 3 stars. There's a 3.5, a 4.5, a 4 3/4, and a 5. That's all timer stuff. If that was in the 90s, that's an all timer show of all time.
Yeah,
I don't want to watch it at all.
That's a higher batting average than any All Japan show in the 90s. It makes no fucking whatever. I don't get it.
His divorce broke his brain. So,
yeah. But I mean, that was literally it. I watched a lot of Summer Games Fest. But that's not wrestling. So.
Oh, that's not.
Well, I'm trying to think. Did they show any game that was? You know what? That new Gears of War looks really cool.
All right.
We can call that wrestling related.
All right. Well, I watched a little bit of wrestling. It seems like a lot now.
Well, you always say I watched a little bit, and then you come with 3 or 4 full shows that you watched. In 7 days.
I have watched 1 full show.
Jesus Christ! I haven't watched a full show since WrestleMania weekend. I
watched all of the GLEAT show, and it was fun. It had the maximum male models. That's it's just fun seeing them show up in random places. They stick out like sore thumbs. But I don't know. I'm kind of liking all their work since they left WWE. It had Fujita and Kendo Kashin versus the Strong Hearts. And then the main event, which is why I watched the show, because I don't keep up with GLEAT that much. But the main event was Shima versus Kazuyashi versus Minoru Tanaka versus Onita, Yoshitatsu, and Kawakami in a. I mean, they're calling it a current blast death match, but it was an exploding barbed wire bat match, and it was fucking awesome.
That sounds good.
Because I guess Kazuyashi is retiring, and so this is clearly he wanted to do this before he went out, and him and Onita are brawling through the crowd, and they don't even really cut away to the other 4 guys at all for the first part of the match. They're just watching the crowd brawl, and Hayashi's clearly loving it. The only downside is him and Shima and Tanaka are all wearing white suits from head to toe, and they don't bleed at all. I saw that, and I was like, "This is gonna." I was all timer stuff. This is gonna be a really good match. They're gonna get covered in blood, not a drop of blood, really.
Damn.
But huge explosions. It's really funny when Onita can go anywhere, any arena in the world, and just put on great explosions. And then going back to Tony Khan couldn't do with $1 billion. But I watched that show. I would say the main event's worth watching, just because it's fun. People are gonna if you've liked the G-Rex title scene, you'll probably like Tamura versus Lindemann. And then El Desperado had a produce show.
Yeah,
you guys see this match listing? It's crazy. I only watched the hardcore tag team match, which is Jun Kasai, Takahashi versus Minoru Suzuki and Takayuki Yuki, and it is not really my cup of tea, because it's really supposed. It's really tongue in cheek, haha, this is funny, but it's a Lego death match, and it's 20 minutes, but it keeps your attention just because it's you're watching a Lego death match in New Japan, and that's still kind of funny and cool. And there's a moment where Suzuki takes his shoes off and steps on a Lego, but then he clearly missteps, and it's he clearly got hurt for a split second, actually stepping on a Lego, and he just smiles, and that was awesome. Where I'm yeah, Lego's hurt. It was like he clearly did not mean to really step there, and like because he kind of slid and he like had a smile like, oh shit, I don't like that.
Was it actually a New Japan produce show? Because I know they used to do like Taka Taichi Despi Mania, but that was through.
I mean,
used to be K Dojo, but now JTO. But
it was on New Japan World. It was. I mean, it's called. I mean, Cage Match has it as New Japan. I don't really know how you differentiate.
Okay.
Outside of that,
yeah, New Japan was advertising it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
interesting.
It was more like a freedom show than a New Japan show. I mean, New Japan, you just had Despy and Zack Sabre Jr. Oh, and then the main event, which I will never watch, but it was Dick Togo and Gato versus Desperado and Dino.
No, why would you not watch?
I'm really excited to watch that match.
I'll watch any Dick Togo match.
I don't think
Desperado booking himself in a pheromones tag. Yes, please.
Yeah, that rocks.
I mean, how many asses are you going to see? Like, it's got to be the over/under is 2.5. You got to be the over.
Yeah,
that's what you're hoping for. Yeah, I mean,
heard they're uploading that on the Colt picks.
Oh man, fuck yeah. I'm gonna have to look into that streaming service. God, literally, I'd never heard of it till.
Yeah, I never heard of that before today too. But I just love the idea that Desperado is winning the Best of the Super Juniors, like a serious tournament, and then like a couple of days later, or at the next day, I guess,
literally
putting on this insane show.
Wait, did he win Best of the Super Juniors?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that.
I mean, I actually liked last year's, which I didn't think I would. So I will eventually. I won't watch it all, but I'll dip back in.
Yeah, the stuff I watched from the Best of the Super Juniors last year, I thought was really good. I, honest to God, completely just missed that it was happening. Like I didn't even. I guess. I mean, it makes sense. We're like halfway through June. I guess like G1 starts next month, but
yeah.
God damn, that totally passed me by.
But yeah, last year it was Q&T invited me on the podcast, and I just love those guys, and they were like, "We're going to talk about it." So I was like, "Oh, I guess I have to watch it." And it was like, thought it was going to be homework, and then it was freaking awesome last year.
Is that all it takes to get somebody to watch something?
Yeah, I mean, if you invite me on a podcast, I'll probably watch something.
Okay, next week, everybody, homework. Champion Carnival 2024. yeah, just watch wrestling.
Watch wrestling homework. Watch wrestling.
Yeah, because I really want to dive into the Champion Carnival from this year because I saw the final. I know who the finals between, and I just can't believe it.
Oh, that's funny. I'm gonna look it up. Who is it?
Is Lord Crew in it?
No, it's Miyahara and one of the Saito brothers. I believe it's Ray Saito, which is the taller, thinner one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love the Saito brothers.
There was a hilarious like cage match review of that match, which I have not seen, where someone like wrote their review of it, where they're like, I teach undergraduate modules on semiotics, and this is the type of match that I would show people as like an example of broad level moral play within the confines of professional wrestling, and then gave it like an 8 out of 10.
Oh, I love that.
I think it's so funny.
God, that's awesome, man.
I love the inmates.
The inmates still have it, man.
The inmates love it. Yeah, the inmates are perfect.
Man, that's awesome. JR, have you watched any wrestling?
Strangely enough, I have been watching some wrestling, which is
you got to get off of here.
Yeah, kicked out of the podcast.
Yeah.
Although I have, obviously I'm not on here every week, so I have a bigger period of time to pull from. But like recent things that I've watched. So I really liked that Miyamoto Mayumi Ozaki rematch that happened like last month or something. And so because I liked that, and because I liked the first match they had, and I'm like generally not like huge on Ozaki, I was like, maybe Miyamoto is like secretly a super worker. I should watch her other stuff that people say is good, and decide for myself. And so I watched like that Marigold tag that people were saying is good, and I thought that was pretty mediocre. And then I watched that, like the title match that she had in January, like the Oz Academy title match that she had against someone whose name I can't remember, and I was like, oh no, this is pretty mediocre too. And I think she's really good in all those matches, but like wrestling generally needs two people to be good for me to enjoy it. And no match that I've seen her in, aside from the Ozaki matches, has two people being good. So that's that. And then since it was like all of the dates were recent, and I had not watched any of them in probably over a decade, I watched 6'5", 6'9", and 6'8".
Oh wow!
Just to see what I think. Those matches are still good. Who knew, right?
Huh? Came away thinking Tao's the best pillar?
No, I don't think that ever. I've literally never thought that.
Oh man,
that
crazy.
thought has never even crossed my mind. And then the other thing that I've been watching, so like Segunda Caida has had the complete and accurate Aoyagi series for like a long time, and we watched that Aoyagi Miura match recently, and that sort of reinvigorated us. So now we're like seeking out more Aoyagi stuff. And so last night I watched a tag that was unfortunately clipped, but it was still dope. That was Aoyagi and Abdullah the Butcher versus Mr. Pogo and Masanobu Kuriso.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, that rules.
And it was sick. It was so sick. It was so good.
Now, is this a late era match for all those guys, or what's the time frame of that match?
I would guess it was like late 80s to early 90s, between 89 and 91. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if it was going to be one of those like weird money mark feds that like popped up in like the early to mid 2000s or some shit.
No. It was they were full prime, just pasting each other and doing a crowd brawl.
Yeah, that sounds like that.
It was one of those great 9-minute brawls where like it's basically just two singles matches happening at the same time, and like very occasionally they interact all together.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was awesome. It was sick.
Well, hell yeah. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man. I was trying to think. I had a point I wanted to point out before we moved on about wrestling. Oh, I know we had kind of talked about it before a few weeks back. So Bloodsport Bushido happens like next weekend, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like, can't remember the date on it actually.
I don't know. This month has totally gotten away from me. I didn't realize
22nd.
Yeah, so yeah, that's literally next week. Good lord. And I also didn't it just didn't dawn on me that it was like Forbidden Door time again. I guess because I'm not on Twitter now, so like all the wrestling stuff I get is through the Discord. Just because like I'm not on Twitter at all. So I looked up like the Forbidden Door today. I did not realize that show had like 9 matches announced already, and it's still like 3 weeks out. So that could be a 25 match show by a day of. So that's just fucking crazy. Like they're running Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr., which I mean would probably be like fairly decent. I mean, it looks like a decent card, like for what it is. It just shocked me. I was like, wow. Not only did I not realize this show was in like 3 weeks, but they've already announced like a full pay-per-view worth of card. Just something to keep an eye of. I don't know if y'all have heard about this AEW company, but
I'm not familiar.
Sam hasn't watched a match of AEW yet in 2024. We found out last week.
I'm not convinced Sam has not seen a match that did not involve him getting mauled.
You think just the Dean show?
Oh, okay, JR, you were there. You could settle this. Was it really cool to see Sam get his shit rocked by Demus?
Hilarious. Yeah, he got rocked too.
Can you confirm who's taller?
Demus is certainly stockier.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know who's taller. I genuinely don't.
What about if you add Jonathan Gresham to the mix?
I would say both are taller than Gresham.
Man, that's fucking crazy.
Lil Bill is small, but keep in mind, like, granted, Lil Bill did himself no favors by like calling out Cruel, right? Who's like legitimately very big.
Yeah. No, man, that fucking rocked.
And it was, I mean, that was so funny.
Yeah. That's like when my 2-year-old nephew tries to square up on me. I actually think there's probably a less of a height difference, to be honest.
Yeah, your 2-year-old nephew is probably taller than Lil Bill.
He's a big kid. He's close.
I am so shocked that Gresham agreed to that because he seems to care so much about being small. Like, he seems to hate it.
Well, maybe that's why he was wearing the octopus mask, so we didn't know it was him. Who else could this van be? Oh man, that's awesome. Somebody in the Discord today said that they bumped into Jonathan Gresham at a show a few years ago,
and he fell down.
No, I asked. I was like, "Oh, did you step on him?" And they were like, "No, but I thought it was just a very, very wide child."
Oh my God. Hey, I will admit he's like 4 children wide at this point.
No, I mean
he's beefing up.
Yeah, yeah, he's something up. I don't know.
Naturally.
Yeah. Maybe he's I don't know. Chris called smoking a ball of PED earlier. Maybe he's just doing that. Maybe he's just smoking a lot of weed.
Oh, we all forgot to mention that we watched the NXT PLE.
Oh yeah, I did forget to mention.
I know we all watched it though.
Yeah, that's
what are your guys' thoughts on Jordan Grace?
I did watch the clip of All Ego Ethan Page coming out to Dead Silent.
I watched that too.
That's awesome. I saw the clip of Jordan Grace, Sexy Red, and Shawn Michaels in the kitchen, and Jordan Grace going, "You cooked," and it's Shawn Michaels wearing a chef hat that says Shawn Michaels.
I watched that, but it felt against my will.
Yeah. They ran that show at the fucking Apex.
I will say that, and then it looked better than any UFC at the Apex.
Yeah, well, yeah, because people were there. No, I agree. That just seems so like in a year where you're running all these big money arenas. Why the fuck are you running like the Apex on a Sunday night? I don't know. It just felt weird.
Gotta give it the big fight feel. Ethan Page and Trick Williams.
Yeah. I saw where that match only went like 12 minutes too. I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
And then even Twitter, I know you're not on Twitter, even Twitter was saying it was fine. And I was like, oh, it must have been terrible.
It must be the worst thing ever.
Like, if they're just like, oh, it was okay. I'm like, this has had to be the drizzling shit. Because they freak out about everything NXT does.
Man, that's awesome. And NXT. So again, I'm not watching this, but apparently NXT is doing like the Raw Underground thing, and it's just called NXT Underground.
Yeah, they did it with Lola Vice and Shayna.
That's why? How?
Shane McMahon involved?
Oh, I wish.
Is Dabba-Kato back?
I don't even know who that is.
He's the
Baba Sunday. Yeah.
Oh. Seems like I've missed a lot.
You have. Jeez.
That doesn't sound like you even watched Raw Underground.
Yeah, I as soon as they canned Raw Underground, I said, well, this show's obviously not for me anymore.
Well, that was all on Raw Underground.
Yeah, like you dipped out way before that.
I listened to it in podcast form the next day.
Oh man.
Yeah, I used to download the audio of Raw and just listen to it. Matches and everything included.
Listening.
That would be a terrible experience.
I was just picturing like you're going to work tomorrow and like put these headphones on for 8 hours. It's the audio of the last 3 Raws.
Time to listen to SmackDown May 21st, 2001. Okay, here we go.
No, we listen to the Raw, and if you can guess the date it aired, we'll take the headphones off.
Oh, actually, that would be a fun game. I wonder if you could.
Not for me. I would. It seems the same for the last 15 years.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I wonder if you could pull a clip from a random Raw, and you would just have to get the year right. That would probably be possible. I would think.
It's the worst version of Wordle I've ever heard.
2007. No, but it's yellow. What does yellow mean? Oh, it's in the 2000s. You get 5 more guesses.
John Cena is employed.
Oh my God, just make it connections, but it's somehow audio only, and it's you guessing one thing. So I guess it's not connections at all.
Yeah, so not connections at
all. Oh man. Well, are y'all ready to move to Big Top?
Yeah, sure. I'm ready for some Big Top.
So if you don't know, if you didn't listen to last week's episode with Quentin, we take the pressure off of us. We let our guest hosts come to us with a big top. They come to us and they say, "Hey, I got this real sloppy big top. I gotta let you boys handle it," and we're here to handle it. So, JR, if you,
it's a really great thing to be like, "Hey, will you talk about wrestling for hours? Also, download Discord if you don't have it. Also, you come up with the podcast." Bye.
Listen, as I will say, as the #1 wrestling podcast in Denmark, I mean, we kind of have that sway now. I mean, dozens of people in Denmark had to listen to us for us to get there.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, so JR has our topic this week. So in all honesty, it's a very good topic. But so JR, take it away.
All right. I'll read what I wrote to Dan. So my question for the big topic of the week is: do the things you like in wrestling, either aesthetically or narratively, influence things you like in other media? For example, if you enjoy like maximalist wrestling, do you enjoy that in films and TV you watch as well? Or do you view wrestling as separate? Or, I mean, I guess conversely, do you feel like the things that you like in other media influence the type of wrestling you like? I don't necessarily feel like we have to think wrestling defines everything, but you guys can probably figure out where I'm driving with this. So yeah, I don't know who wants to answer first.
Well, I'll be honest. I have no idea where you're driving with this.
No. I mean, I was saying that I think I've talked long enough. You guys can take it away.
Yeah. I thought you meant you had like a point overall. I was like, I haven't been on Twitter in 2 months. I have no fucking idea. So I was thinking about this. So So maximalist movies, to me, immediately I'm thinking of a movie like Speed Racer, or maybe something a little more recent like Elvis. Like those movies to me are just like they are assaulting your senses for 2.5, 3 hours. And I love those movies. Both those movies would rank in like an all-time ranking for me somewhere. Top 100 movies of all time. So I love that. However, in wrestling, I don't want that shit. I guess, not necessarily maximalist. I guess the closest thing to maximalist I like in wrestling is like last year, Keiji Muto's retirement entrance that had like the 7-minute music video. He comes out to like a mashup of all of his theme songs. He's in the Tokyo Dome. I love that shit. But in the context of the actual wrestling match, I don't know. Like a maximalist style wrestler, I'm thinking like the Bucks.
Yeah, or Osprey or something.
Or Osprey, who I I genuinely do not dislike them as much as like our bubble of people, but they're just not like my favorite cup of tea. Like I'll watch a Bucks match and enjoy it. I'll watch an Osprey match and enjoy it, but it's not like my favorite thing on the planet. Like there's a bar that it usually hits for me, but it very, very rarely exceeds those expectations.
Now, my first thought was, like, aesthetically speaking, when I think of maximalist wrestling, I think about like a high ceiling and a low floor. Because something like, was it 2 years ago, the Triple Mania Volano 4 versus Pentagon Jr. match? Like, I love that match. And I love that match mostly, I don't even know if mostly, but a big part of it is the pomp and circumstance in the arena and the, the over emotional, wrestlers and the seconds and all that. Now, having said that, a lot of AAA is probably maximalist and it's garbage. So it's just one of those things where it's like, if it's done well, I do want a lot of gaga, a lot of fanfare, and a lot of. If it's done well, which is just really hard to do, I think, in wrestling. But I don't want this to be like wrestling sucks. But I think that my favorite stuff will probably be stuff like that. And then like, Onita, big over the top, crying and explosions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That stuff is all amazing. But I think that it's probably the same for me with movies where like, I love Brazil. And then like another way I love Marvel movies still. I'm still one of those guys. But also like I can see why like, the Transformers movie sucks and the average movie at this point kind of sucks and the average movie at this point in 2024 is maximalist, is throwing everything at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of right where my brain went with the topic when you first sent the question.
So are you saying in a wider sense that the average 2024 wrestling match is maximalist?
I think it is.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean,
I think there's not a lot of subtle wrestling in 2024.
No, I completely agree. I hadn't thought about it that way.
I always think that like one of the big shifts in wrestling history is like, and I'm certainly not the first person to think or say this, right? But like wrestling when used to attract people that were like failed athletes, right? And now wrestling attracts people that grew up reading The Observer. And so I think that naturally people like cater their styles to what is going to get them noticed by Dave. Or, I mean, it may not even be so conscious, but like they cater their styles to things that, Dave said were good. Right. And I mean, there's no one who has liked movement and stuff happening more in wrestling more than Dave Meltzer over the past 40 years,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because in a way, even with your wrestlers that, you're like, oh, they're doing that ironically. No, they're not. They're really not. They really care a lot what he puts on his website. So. Yeah, I mean, I totally get it, Dan. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about like wrestling in 2024 in that context, but just thinking about, I mean, we're talking about maximalist style wrestlers, like just what Osprey's doing on TV. People are like, man, we're getting pay-per-view quality matches on TV. I'm like, does him just doing a lot mean it's pay-per-view quality? And what does pay-per-view quality match even fucking mean? Because TV matches have always been good. Like it's never had to be at a premium live event, but I don't know. Dan, maybe you're cooking. Maybe we picked the wrong time to start a wrestling podcast and a wrestling website.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, even going, if you're not doing the high spots, Will Ospreay, Young Bucks criticism, the NXT like we were talking about, the logo of our website, like staring at your hands, like that is the future of wrestling, or currently the future of wrestling. Like that is what WWE wants, and WWE is the biggest company in the world. So the major wrestling that gets watched right now will be over the top, emotional. Why am I so evil? Why am I so violent? Bullshit.
Yeah.
I
I mean, even
too, yeah.
go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think that's also the reason why, like, stuff stands out more, right? Like, I think there was late last year, very early this year, when the like Abe Nomura matches were, I guess that was late last year, were you know going around and people were like, "Oh, these are so good," right? And it's like I mean, then there was the backlash where people like Phil and me were like, "Would this even be like the best mid card match on like an average Battle Arts show from the '90s?" And like, we get called sour or gatekeepers or whatever for that, but like we're probably both right. But like, I think I think one of the things that's interesting about the like Abe Nomura stuff isn't necessarily that it's good per se, right? Or like good compared to what it's emulating necessarily, but I think that it stands out because it's so different than the approach that a lot of other people have, right? I think it's also why Makabe is so popular, or why Thatcher has been able to carve out a career for himself.
Yeah.
In that, like, they're willing to explore the aesthetic corners of like very different style, and and people sort of value that approach, that there's people that are trying different things, right, that are trying to sort of set different. That's really interesting about wrestling right now, whether we think about it in those terms or just watch it,
Yeah, no, I haven't. Wow, until like today, I have not even like ever given this a thought. But even just looking at like the decline of New Japan, not a decline like business wise, although I mean I guess attendance is down a little bit, but like just in ring wise, like these guys that were getting so much hype in the early to mid 2010s now, like, and I'm not saying like this is like, I don't think fucking Tomohiro Ishii is on Twitter being like, oh, I gotta really crank it up at day 7 of the G1, but like it just feels like they have to do everything in every single match, and it's just not the case. Like I don't know, like working a house show in the middle of the New Beginning tour, you should not be working like the same style match that you're working in like the finals of the G1. And like a lot of guys kind of are doing that. They're just doing a lot all the time. And like it's eventually gonna get to a place where like this new crop of guys is gonna come up, they're doing that, and then like they have like very serious injuries like before they're 30, like torn ACLs or torn rotator cuffs and all that shit. I mean, just look at the fucking
Performance Center.
Yeah, the Performance Center had 6 torn ACLs last year, like in the span of like 3 months. Like it's fucking crazy. Like they're sending basically untrained wrestlers out there, and they're just saying, go fucking crazy. And these are people with athletic backgrounds, which your average indie wrestler more than likely does not have to this caliber. And they're just like, oh, do whatever. And like they're destroying their knees, and they're like 24.
I think it's I saw an interesting thing the other day on Twitter about how like TV and movie writers are trying to write like important scenes and monologues so that they the subtitles, like if you watch it with subtitles, they fit within 4 screenshots, because they know that like Twitter word of mouth with the 4 screenshot like meme template,
oh my god, yeah,
is like a really important sort of word of mouth advertising for a movie. And I think that that's true in wrestling too, of like even on low level shows, guys consciously or unconsciously, guys and girls, feel the need to like wrestle in a gifable fashion.
mm-hmm.
Like there's not really like room for, the like 8-minute TV match anymore with like, where you save your, you don't hit your finish, you hit your, you just win with a clothesline or a small package or something.
Yeah, it's like social media in this way has kind of driven that style pretty much in a lot of different media. I mean, you were mentioning TV, movies, we're talking about wrestling, but even like stuff like in video games, like your big like triple A titles now are pretty much these long single player epics that have to hit like all these story notes, and it's pretty much yeah, I mean, it is just trying to like fit in every little thing to as much as you can, and you're just getting these very expensive, very bloated, very everything products that don't necessarily hit the mark. They may be good, but I mean, it just doesn't hit the level. Like I feel like if I watch like a great match from the 90s or the 80s and compare it to a great match today, like I mean, it feels different. Like
Yeah.
even though I
It does.
like the matches, like I like the matches, and like I could go give oh fuck, I'm trying to think whatever example. I can give this match that happened at WrestleMania 4 stars, and then this match on this undercard of a 1991 All Japan show 3.5. But if I'm like looking at them and I'm watching them side by side, I'm like, man, I really like that 6-man tag from that All Japan show way more. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like taste has become, at least mine, and I do it unconsciously, like has just become like sort of cleansed. And maybe it's because I don't watch as much old stuff as I used to, but it's just become sort of desensitized in a way where I'm just like,
yeah.
if I see something good, I'm like, oh, that was pretty good.
I think your video game point is really interesting too, right? Like you'll forgive me because I don't play a lot of video games, and I never really have, but like I'm permanently online, so I like see discourse and stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
you've heard of them.
yeah, I've heard tell that there are video games. But like it seems as though like comparing video games to wrestling may be a really interesting point, because like they're in the like Sega Genesis, Super Nintendo days, like there seemed like because of the lack of power of the systems, there was a inherently more creativity with like um, you know, AAA level titles, big titles and stuff, because there was only so far that things could be pushed graphically or size wise on a single cartridge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things needed to be completely baked before they were shipped out to the public, right? Because there was no patchwork that could be done. Whereas now it seems like, if a AAA game release does not have like essentially photorealistic graphic, it's dismissed out of hand. And I think that's in some ways, I mean, obviously not, it's not an apples to apples comparison with wrestling, right? But like, I certainly think that within professional wrestling, it's harder now to have a match that is considered a quote unquote great match if it does not have like if it does not meet a specific threshold for uh cleanliness and amount of action that takes place, and you know uh amount of sort of like epic encounter level stuff, right, does that make sense? Do people understand what I'm driving at here?
Yeah, we're like,
Yeah,
every video game has to be a giant open world sandbox now. Again, I'm not a video game guy. And every match has to have a bump on the outside or a 450 or
Yeah,
a certain
right.
level of athleticism.
Exactly. Like there's like I think about matches that I think are great, right? Like let's take an example that we can probably all agree on. The Yokozuna match, right? Like, that's a match that literally would not work on television today. You know, like if two wrestlers reenacted that match in front of a hot crowd, people would, online would be left very cold by it for, because it sort of doesn't meet those expectations. It feels anachronistic or, like from a different time period. And if you're watching it within that context, right, you can sort of put yourself into that period, which, like what Tanner was saying, right? But if like, Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson set out to have that match spot for spot, people would be like, why aren't they doing flips and running?
Yeah, I mean, and also I think it goes, to mention we are in the minority, I think, with this case. I mean, we're the people that, I mean, yes, we, have, doing a podcast, have the website, have our, bubble of wrestling people. But like, I have had numerous people, just using Ospreay Danielson as an example. They have told me, they said that is the best match that has ever happened in America ever. Like, and these are people that are very, very casual wrestling fans that probably, I mean, they have probably seen a ton of Nitro and a ton of Raw's War, but like, and they're like, that's the best match that's ever happened in America. They know who they're wrestling for. They know their audience. Danielson's a different case. I think he's kind of his own beast, but like, they know.
I love Danielson, and my favorite wrestler of all time. I'm number one in my GWE, most likely. I mean, he wants to wrestle for 5 hours straight. Like, he is not.
No, he's a fucking psychopath.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he is not a minimalistic wrestler.
No, not at all. But they know who, who's buying the pay-per-view. Yeah. We're not paying money for these shows. Who's you
talked about Forbidden Door, and I was like, that's gonna go way too late.
Yeah, no,
no way I can watch that live.
And on a fucking Sunday? Are you for real? Before July 4th weekend? Come on. But like, who's buying the MJF Burgundy Wolf shirt? Not us. But I mean, there's people.
You kidding me?
Yeah, Chris actually has two on the way.
Chris has been quiet this whole time. He's like NXT is awesome.
Chris is like, what are they fucking talking about? Chris is like, I love Speed Racer and Will Ospreay, but you can do both. But no,
the Speed Racer movie is about pro wrestling, by the way.
Yeah, no, like, Speed Racer fucking rules.
They figure out that the races were fixed. I mean, like, that's a pro wrestling.
It's time to do MJF Vulgar Auteurism.
So if there is a vulgar, that's a great question. Who is the best vulgar auteur wrestler? If you are listening to this podcast and you don't know what we mean by vulgar auteurism, the most sort of classic example of vulgar auteurism is probably like Michael Bay, right? Making like Bad Boys and Pain and Gain and stuff like that. So who's the most vulgar auteur wrestler?
I mean, my immediate answer is Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg is a good answer, I would say. I think there's like an inherent sincerity to Goldberg that doesn't quite jive. Like, Goldberg just thinks he kicks ass, right? There's nothing necessarily inherently vulgar about him, although I may be biased because, Goldberg.
What about Logan Paul?
Logan Paul. That's perfect.
And it's also like the same way when I love those movies, I feel a little gross. When I like a Logan Paul thing, I go, oh no.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have like that.
But man, Pain and Gain is a fucking certified
Hogan.
classic.
Oh, Hogan's a good answer too.
Hogan's a strong answer. Yeah.
Yeah, Hogan's a good answer. I don't know. I kind of feel like with Hogan, I would kind of place Hogan as like, dude, my dad liked Hulk Hogan. Like, my grandma liked Hulk Hogan. Like, my grandma wouldn't watch fucking Michael Bay's Transformers. Interesting. I just thought of Goldberg because I'm thinking of like dumb cool guy think he do dumb cool thing good. So
Yeah.
I to be fair, he did. Goldberg fucking rocks, but that's just like in my head, like using the Michael Bay example, like that's what I also think of Michael Bay as, like a dumb cool guy. I think he do dumb cool guy thing cool, and most of the time he hits the fucking mark. Pain and Gain is an American classic.
All right, I can cut that out. It's not a big deal.
Nah, Dwayne Johnson. That's
No, Pain and Gain is sick. That's a great movie.
that's the Rock's
God.
best. That's the Rock's best role.
No, Southland Tales is, but
Southland Tales is by far the Rock's best role. What a great film.
I don't know. I don't know.
have you seen Southland Tales, Tanner?
Nope.
You should see Southland Tales, and you will
Yeah,
you will understand.
You guys should do a live watch. Yeah, do a live watch.
Next week, when whoever, because I think next week all four of us is back. When we do our what did you watch this week, I will have watched Southland Tales. I will watch Southland Tales of the next 7 calendar days.
That's really a Justin Timberlake vehicle, though.
Oh, there's so many. It's a vehicle for a lot of people. Sean William Scott.
Yeah.
What is this movie about? You know what? Don't tell me.
It's about America.
Yeah, there you go.
It is about America.
Oh, so it's like the American version of Evangelion.
You're not far off.
Hold on. Are you telling me who's Shinji? The Rock?
The Rock is kind of Shinji, maybe.
Okay. Any sentence that starts with The Rock is kind of Shinji, I'm in. So yeah, I'll watch Southland Tales this week, and I'll report back on next week's episode.
This makes me think of a point.
One of the greatest casts of all time. You got what? Sarah Michelle Gellar, Wood Harris, John Lovett,
Wallace Shawn. Yeah.
Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, shit.
It's like your average episode of Parks and Rec.
It is truly unbelievable.
Wow.
Chris, have you seen the can cut that they just released?
Oh yeah, the can cut is sick. That's how I first watched it.
Okay, so I had never seen the can cut until recently, and it is sick. So.
Well, how about you just somebody send me the can cut, and that's how I'll watch it.
All right.
I'll try to find a link for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad our talk about wrestling went to that.
Well, hearing Chris and JR talk about movies like brings it back to a point we had earlier where I feel like I've watched a lot of movies. I know a lot about movies, but nowhere near these guys and nowhere near other people. And I don't think I would ever. I mean, I would say jokingly, but I wouldn't be like, when I watched a new movie, I would be like, that's the greatest movie in the history of America. But like new wrestling fans, and this might just be like old man talking about new generation, have no problem being like Danielson Ospreay, best match in American history.
I think
it's like never seen anything before 2000, and they can just say that. I just think that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well,
what's that like? I'm gonna butcher this, but like, what's that? It's like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Where like it's like a line graph, right? And it's like however long you've been doing a thing and how much you think you're an expert. And like people who just start don't think they're an expert. People who've been doing it for a little bit of time think they're like the expert on a topic. And then the further they go, the less of an expert they identify as, until like finally very at the end, it goes back up to like almost where you thought you were an expert when you first started doing something, right? And I think that's very true for a lot of wrestling fans, where it's like, they've finally discovered wrestling outside of, Raw and SmackDown and AEW, and they've decided that they know everything. And then there's people like us who have spent entirely too much of their brain energy on professional wrestling over the course of their lives. And at the end of the day, they're like, oh yeah, no, I don't know anything about wrestling. I know less than when I started,
I've watched enough insane amount of wrestling to know there's an insane amount of wrestling I haven't watched.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's like I feel like, and then
wrestling.
I would say.
That was like we had somebody or a couple people in the Discord today where they were talking about. I'm not saying they were doing this, But it's just so funny. Like, I was like, wow, this is just like the online space now. Like, quite a few of them were like, oh, I started watching non-WWE stuff and saying they were like playing the expert card or anything. But I was just like, God damn. Like, there's people like interacting in meaningful online discussion about wrestling that I've been watching for a year and a half. Like, that's fucking nuts. like people are talking about GWE that have been watching wrestling for a year and a half. That's fucking nuts. And I'm just like, man, that's good on them. But I'm just like, that is so crazy to me. It also just feels crazy to me because I'm pretty sure I've brought this up on an episode before, or I've brought it up in the Discord if I haven't, that I distinctly remember I used to be like one of the youngest people in like our online wrestling bubble. And then I was talking to somebody in the Discord the other day and they were saying, oh, that match from 2005 happened 3 months before I was born. And then I just felt,
Oh no.
I felt my bones turn to dust in my body. I was like, 2000, you can use the computer? And you were born in 2005. And like, this guy's in college. I'm like, what the like it's messed up. It's entirely fucked up.
I was in college in 2005. So like, you know, throw that out there.
It's so fucked up how people are allowed to be younger than you.
Yeah, no, it's terrible.
I hate it. I'm really against it.
Yeah. They should not be allowed
sucks.
to interact with me.
No, I wish somebody would have bullied me harder when I was on PWO when I was 18, saying El Generico is the second best babyface of all time. I wish somebody would have messaged me and told me to kill myself. Like,
I still believe that though.
It wasn't true, but I just think I just think I needed somebody needed to put me in my place. I was like, why the fuck are you here? You shouldn't be on PWO. You're 8. You're a child. You're a little baby man. I was like, what are you doing? Shut the fuck up.
That era of PWO was so fun. And like, aside from a few people who I just steadfastly cannot stand that were big parts of GWE.
Yeah,
I think by and large it went pretty well. No, not Sam.
That's why we had to have him off this week.
Yeah, Sam, you sit this one out, bud. Yeah. No, GWE was a lot of fun. I remember nobody on well, I mean, yeah, obviously. But I remember nobody on Twitter. I remember talking about GWE on Twitter in like 2015 and just a bunch of people being like, what the fuck is that? And like, it just, that level of fan really wasn't using Twitter yet. So that's why I had to break down and make a PWO account. It was just really funny how much online wrestling discourse has changed in the last decade.
And I mean, I talked about this last week, but it was like, I got into wrestling and then I kind of early on got into tape trading, but it was only Japan and then it was only indies. And it's like, every one of those feels like, oh, I'm an expert. I've watched Japanese wrestling. And it's like, I watch wrestling where there's 4 white guys in the crowd. I'm an expert.
Yeah, I watched like, Super J Cup 94. I know everything.
Yeah, exactly. Where every single time, and I'm like, I talked about, like, I didn't start watching Territories until WWE put out the Ric Flair DVD set. And I was like, oh, wrestling existed before I was born. That makes sense.
That's crazy. Y'all know they were doing this in 1993?
But it's definitely a thing where it's like, I watched comp tape where guys said these are the best matches ever. I agree, and I'm right. Like, I definitely felt that way. I was like, me and him happen to both be right. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Me, Phil, Woolcock, Loss, the whole gang's here. Oh, man. It's just so funny how I remember just thinking 10 years ago, everybody older than me was just like, I always imagined them as like suburban dad telling their kids to shut up as they're typing on PWO why Terry Funk is better than Ric Flair. And now I'm just like, oh, they were like my age or a little bit older.
Yeah, and like, to be fair, most of the people that were like really typing out stuff on PWO would never be anywhere close to a woman. So I mean, you know, you're half right.
Yeah, man, good times. We should bring it back. I don't know. I mean, I know PWO is still around. I know people still post on it very regularly. So
remember when Parv turned out to be a huge Nazi? That was pretty good.
That's covered in almost every episode of this.
I think we've talked about it every episode of the fucking podcast. It comes up all the
nuts.
time.
Go on.
I was about to say I was doing a stream with Quentin, and we were reading old PWO threads. This and some of them were gold, and people because I talked about big laugh, big love, and they were like, "Who the fuck what's a big love?" And so I was like, "Oh, this is Parv," and I'm like, and now he runs a very, very interesting YouTube channel where he is also he pushes far right rhetoric and also talks about Bigfoot a lot. So you know,
I tried to watch that Twitch, and I remember thinking I was just a lurker, but it still was like, you know, it's like that Chronicles of Narnia meme, like, do not cite the deep magic to me. I was there when it was written, where I was like, you're just reading shit that I live. Like, I know this by heart. I don't need to hear you read it.
Yeah, no.
So I had to dip out. It was just funny to watch. It was funny to watch you have people on your Twitch that are like never heard of any of these debates or never read these insane threads.
Yeah, it's just
relive it.
Yeah, it's just funny. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was say like one of the retroactively funniest arguments on PWO that's like it was funny in the moment because Tom K is one of the funniest posters of all time, and it's even funnier now due to more context. But Tom was arguing with Parv about something like years and years ago, and Parv like said in a thread that, you know, he was British and a historian, and Tom goes, "Oh, like David Irving," who, if you don't know, is like a extremely famous British historian, quote unquote, that like you know, wrote you know, basically Holocaust denial, you know, and like over and over again. And so like it was funny then because, you know, Parv is an asshole and none of us liked him, and it was a like clever little line. But then, like, you know, 15 years later, it's like, oh no, you're right. He's exactly like that.
Yeah,
you called it.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's fucking crazy. Are we ready to move to the wacky line?
Yeah, let's do it.
Real fast though, I actually literally talk about discovering new wrestling. I had never watched any of those. I don't want to pronounce it, but the Piraten Kampf matches,
Kampf stuff. Yeah,
I had never seen any of that, and I didn't mention that when I was watching because I only watched a bit of it, and I put more in my watch later. But I was like, I don't know how I missed that on Found Footage Friday, but I had never even seen any of that. So like that's always exciting. Where like, you know, JR randomly posts about something, and I Google it, and I'm like, new shit that's 50 years old.
If you watch that, I mean, like I also am always hesitant to compare like wrestling to movies because I roll my eyes so hard at the like, oh, this is cinema crowd, you know, when like, you know, Will Ospreay staring at Kota Ibushi or something, you know. But if you watch that Dave Taylor Franz von Boyton match, like it is legitimately filmed like a movie. It is nuts. It's crazy. I don't know. That match is
okay, so I started with the Booten Robert Gastel one. So I thought you were being a little over top about the filming of it. So I haven't got to that.
You gotta watch search the Dave Taylor Franz von Boyton chain match.
I will 100% do that.
If you just go on YouTube and you type in, you know, like Franz von Boyton, Dave Taylor, it's the first thing that comes up, you know.
And then after that, watch Southland Tales.
And then watch Southland Tales. That's
I've seen that,
by the way. That's a hell of a night.
Smoke a bowl.
I say I was in
That's
middle
BED,
school,
brother,
when Donnie Darko came out. So I was a Richard Kelly guy. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all ready for the wacky line?
Thoughts on the box? Should we talk about the box?
I've never seen the box. I need to see the box.
Most wrestling fans haven't.
Also true.
God damn, that was good. That was good.
All right, wacky line.
Yeah, wacky line. This is from our friend of the show, No More Creative. Question for the podcast. Is there a well-regarded wrestler you haven't seen much of and are looking forward to deep diving for the VP 2010s? JR, if you don't know, we're doing a VP 100 just for the 2010s. They said, personally, I've only seen like 8 Harashima matches. They've all been great, though, and if I watch enough, he'll probably get into my top 15 if the quality is consistent. So, TLDR, that question, who for the VP 2010s are you looking forward to deep diving, or who is somebody that you haven't seen much of that you think could place quite highly for you?
I don't want to steal the question answer, but I have not seen a lot of DDT.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at all, but specifically that era. So I guess him and Takeshita, they're both written down on our list of the, for the formerly known as Always Bears Wrestler of the Decade. People have both those guys down, so I want to dip my toe in with them and see that. Outside of that, I'm not totally sure who I haven't seen enough of.
That's so I'm thinking, because I've seen a fuck ton of 2010 stuff. Like I've watched a lot of it. Somebody that I haven't seen a lot of, just I can't see them making I mean, Lucha in general, maybe like outside of your like Casas, your Virus, your Demus, like guys like that. Like maybe like I've seen a good amount of Hechicero, but there's a lot more Hechicero I could watch. So like he's a good answer, but he's already going to rank high for me. He could only go up, I think. So I don't know. I don't have like a great answer here. I mean, listen, first of all, I feel like I'm getting gaslit in the chat when people are telling me Shinsuke Nakamura is going to finish high for them in this thing. I feel like I'm being gaslit. Nakamura had like 3 great matches the whole fucking decade. I don't know.
Fuck off.
I don't know what we're fucking doing. Like when people are talking like this. So I don't know. Maybe I'm if somebody wants to recommend me these mythical great Shinsuke Nakamura matches, I'm more than receptive to receive them. So I'll throw that on the second monitor while I'm watching Southland Tales.
No, you have to give your full attention to Southland Tales.
Yeah, that's why Nakamura is going on the second monitor. I'm not.
It's pretty complicated,
Have you, Tanner? Have you seen? I hate pronouncing anything. I hate pronouncing English, honestly. But the Busca de un Adolo from 2014. That's like Dragon Lee and Cavernario and Hechicero. The big tournament. But you should watch all that stuff.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know what you said.
Okay. big CML tournament with Cavernario and Hechicero and Dragon Lee 2014.
I vaguely, I would have to look at my spreadsheets to see exactly, but if I watched it in 2014, so I have no big memory of it.
But I rewatched a lot of that stuff fairly recently, and it all holds up.
Yeah. All the Lucha stuff I've watched so far from the 2010s for this project have either stayed exactly the same, like I've thought the same thing, or it has only gone up. I haven't watched literally a single Lucha thing that has gone down.
Well, yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, I mean,
the biggest problem you'll have if you'll watch this, especially with CMLL, you'll watch the same guys be young and great, and you'll be like, man, I hope they get pushed to the top. And then just fast forward 10 years, and they're in the same exact spot.
Still working the third match.
Where is Policeman gonna finish on all y'all's 2010 best of the 2010s list?
Oh,
3.
Oh shit, he had it ready. Done.
No, maybe like a Chico Shea is going to finish very high on my list. He's awesome from what I've watched.
I guess to answer the question, so obviously I have not. I know this is an exercise that you guys are doing, and I have not dived in to the extent that you guys probably have. So there's like 2 ways that you could look at this. One, there's like guys that have matches within the time period that are awesome that I just don't know if there's a lot of other footage out there from the same time period. Like people mentioned Hechicero, but like, what about Charles Acero, right? Like, I just don't know if we have like 10 great Lucero matches on tape, from the 2010s. I'll bet he was awesome through them, but I'll bet he was awesome at shows that like literally we don't even have results for,
Yep.
And then there's stuff that like all of it is on tape and I just have not watched it. Like Joshi is probably the best example. Like, I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in the 2010s in Joshi,
Yeah.
Yeah, my answer was probably going like it's gonna be a lot of Joshi wrestlers that I haven't seen. I've seen like a handful of Kana matches before she went to WWE. But there's definitely a lot more that I can dive into with her. And I mean, she's probably on my list already just based on what I've seen from that. And the WWE run is great. But looking into her more and like Arisa Nakajima and Meiko Satomura and Dash Chisako and Chihiro Hashimoto and all those all Sendai girls, any tape I can find, because there's so much good shit from what I've seen in the 2010s from Sendai girls, especially. I'm kind of excited to check out that stuff.
I'm going to say Joshi, but then it says looking forward to diving in. So I kept that out.
No. Oh no.
It's goddamn.
They love this shit in Denmark.
Yeah, the Danish hate women. Just like our very own Dan Rice. Well, I'll be honest, that was the only question I had this week.
How does that make sense? Did you have like 17 leftover questions last week?
Well, I did, but I feel like some of them are like more geared for Sam in a way, and
I'm a good surrogate for Sam. Lay one on us.
They're geared towards Sam, so they're about 2CW or not wrestling.
Yeah, they're exclusively. So, Sam, why did you choose to take your high school graduation trip to King of Trios 2012? Like, I mean, it's questions like that's a shoot, by the way. I believe. I don't think I'm making that up.
Well, one trip was AIW and one was Chikara, right? Like there were two special trips.
Yes, I believe he took two special trips after he graduated high school. One was to a J-Lit and the other one was to King of Trios.
I mean, King of Trios around that time period are so good. Just such great shows.
Yeah, this has been Sam was 2 years older than me, so I guess 2012. So yeah, just all-timer money making moves from Big Concrete. Well, I guess that's the show. JR, once again, thank you for filling in our lost co-host's chair and filling in for our dearly departed Sam. Please let people know where they can find you all across this great technology we call the internet.
I'm at Wrestling Bubble on Twitter, although my guess, maybe I'm shortchanging people. My guess is if you're listening to this, you probably already follow me on Twitter.
I don't know how many Danish followers do you have?
I have Denmark. I'm well loved in Denmark. I Segunda Caida, if you're go on there and try and find stuff and watch cool stuff that we unearth. It's a pleasure. I don't write a ton about wrestling anymore because I don't like wrestling all that much.
Yeah, none of us do, so don't worry.
Yeah, no, I figured.
That's really the thesis of the show.
Yeah.
That's why we launched the website and podcast network.
Yeah,
that's the move, though. That's the move. I think about wrestling way more than anything else. It's just most of my thoughts are like, man, I really hate my interest, don't I? That's probably an issue. But I'm still sort of overjoyed that I get to write with people like Phil and Matt D and Eric, who are just truly inspiring and awesome, and love wrestling in a way that's infectious and joyful. So that is aspirational for me, and I hope that things that I write make people feel that same way sometimes. So
when are we getting Meth Lab Battle Arts Volume 2?
It's out. Can
I already order it?
No, because I'm lazy. I'll try and get to that this week.
Dane, you should have went to Dane. JR had copies.
You know for a fact that I stared at a $600 plane ticket for far too long. I think I actually DM'd JR about how late to the show I'd be if I took that trip.
Yeah.
And he's like, pretty late.
You probably lucked out too, because like on the way to
C, the third letter of the alphabet, C-O. Check out Wet Hot American Dragon Summer, where we're doing 26 pieces or 25 pieces, I guess the intro post doesn't count, I've heard. 25 pieces for 25 years of the American Dragon. Go check that out. Obviously, other great podcasts on the network like QNTR, Talkin' Tourneys, which is weekly, I've heard. Chris with his great Lucha Roundup, I believe. Chris, you're aiming for 4th of July for the May drop, I believe?
May. I should be getting out in a couple, and hopefully like week and a half.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm obviously just joking. Y'all do great work. Dan does Rotten Rewatch. Definitely check that out. Just a ton of great things on violentpeople.co. You can also follow us on Twitter at violent_people. Also, if you're listening to this show, please leave us a star rating. Hit us with your Dave Meltzer. Hit us with the 7 stars. Leave us a review. Tell your friends about Violent People Radio. The kind of reception to it so far has far exceeded our expectations. So, yeah, just tell everybody about it. I don't know.
All right, thanks.
Is that were you not doing plugs this week, Dan?
Say why I lucked out. Oh shit! You plugged everything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there was like a huge accident and the bridges were closed, so you might have flown in and then gotten stuck in a car, because we left that shitty show. We left Bloodsport, which is like 15 miles away from where Williamstown is, like where the Dean show was. And it took us like almost 2 hours to get to Dean. So,
God damn.
Yeah, that was like the only way I could get there that day was like I was paying so much money to be late to a show, and I couldn't really wrap my head around that one.
Yeah, no.
Oh.
But if you would have saw Sam, if you would have known in advance that Sam was gonna get attacked by Demus, would you?
I mean, even when watching it, I remember thinking like, I wish I was there. But what are you gonna do?
I also watched it. I went, fuck, I should have pulled the trigger on that ticket.
So I was, selling Meth Lab Battle Arts there, and a couple people from Twitter recognized me, and asked very nicely and sort of awkwardly for me, if they could take a picture with me. I said, yeah, and we were taking a picture, and then Phil Schneider comes up out of nowhere and he goes, JR, are those kids taking a mark pick with you?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it was weird. It's weird watching a wrestling show and recognizing 30 people in one building.
Yeah.
Like just in camera shot. I'm like, oh, that's JR, that's Eric, there's Sam. Yeah, it was weird. Dylan's on commentary. Yeah, it was really weird.
Doing a great job.
An excellent job.
He actually was fine in that show. I don't know. That's the bit I got to carry on.
yeah, Dan's a great bit.
We don't all have a Google Doc of 38 bits to drop in.
First of all, it was 37, Dan, and
Shit.
now it's down.
I
to
thought maybe you
32.
added one.
No, I haven't had time. Well, I bought a kitten onto the show. Zelda's the first cat podcaster. Zelda, do you have anything to say before Dan and Chris give their plugs? Do you have anything to say? No, she has nothing. She's been asleep this whole time.
My plugs are everything Tanner said to interrupt JR. That all sounded good.
I'm sorry. I did not. JR must have cut out for me. JR, I'm sorry. I did not hear you.
That's why I didn't do plugs, but I kind of thought you were like, we need to get out of here now because you just like, he's like, you lucked out and then you just launched in the plugs and I was like, all right.
Okay, nope, did not hear that. I swear I did not do that on purpose. That Discord must have fucked me.
I held no offense. It's all right.
Yeah, JR and I are best friends. You know, we podcast together every decade.
Yeah, once a decade. Yeah. When's Frey coming on? When are Frey and Justin coming on?
Yeah, we'll just get the whole gang on.
Special January 6th edition where they
January 6th edition. I probably shouldn't say that, but yeah. Okay.
But yeah, you already plugged Rotten Rewatch and Dan Rice VP on Twitter and I guess next Monday, is that when my piece is supposed to be turned in? That I'm definitely written already?
Yeah, Dan's Wet Hot American Dragon Summer piece will go up on Monday that you're listening to this on Wednesday, I presume.
Yeah. So look out for that.
Well, help you up.
Chris?
Yeah, I am still at Fight Haskins on Twitter.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, that hasn't changed. And I am still writing stuff on violentpeople.co, doing the things that Tanner said. Join the Discord, give us 5 stars. All that good stuff.
Maybe give us some money.
Be nice to JR. Don't cut him off. Don't be late to podcasts. No one would ever do that.
That's crazy. You're calling Sam out and he's not even here.
Yeah, I'm calling Sam out there.
Man, next week's show is going to be a feisty one for sure. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. From everybody at the Violent People Radio show. Good night.
Oh,
that's how we end the show now, right?
Good night.
Crushing it, guys.